Greetings. I just wanted to make a very, well, it might not be brief, but a channel update to not related to the podcast, but related to the God's Last King animated series and the channel that series is currently hosted on, which is Frame by Frame Figures. So basically, for those of you who have seen the podcast website, and this video will be very unedited. I just wanted to I didn't want to sit down, screen recording and editing and all that. I just wanted to make just record a very basic looking update video, right? Just me talking to the camera here in a sense. And I'm also walking up and down in my living room. So if you hear me walking, that's why. And of course I'm chewing gum. Those of you who've seen episode 2, at least that part of it, already know why. Anyways, so as I've mentioned before, for quite some time, whenever I would try to or entertain the idea of continuing to work on God's Last King, I would be struck by a very intense spiritual frustration, agony, anguish, and torment that would basically prevent me from being able to work on the series. And of course, that anguish was caused by me thinking about why I have to make God's Last King. That reason being that the world is so godless and horrible that if you want to watch a godly modern show, you have to make it yourself. I can't just go online and find a godly Catholic show to watch, you know what I mean? I have to make it myself if I want to watch something like that. And the fact the world is so godless and that basically forces me to have to make a godly show if I want to watch a godly show. Thinking about that, it does bother me right now, of course, and it does disgust me. But previously it would basically, I guess, be like a crippling pain, you know? And over the past either few weeks to potentially few months, I have been lightly interacting with the idea of continuing the series. But there are some factors currently preventing me from dedicating as much time as I think would be necessary to the series. Right. Basically, there are some factors preventing me currently from dedicating as much time as I think will be necessary to working on the series in a more frequent capacity, or a more, what would be the word? I guess just, yeah, a broader capacity, or a more full-time capacity, that kind of thing. And the first factor is that currently I am trying to save enough money to, if God wills, buy my own house and land. And I mean, not in the sense of getting a mortgage or none of that, actually just buy my own house and land cash, so that I would have no rent, no mortgage. I own my house, I own my land, and that's it. So currently, that is my primary earthly goal, right? And that requires a lot of attention, a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, of course, begging God for mercy, and if he wills me to accomplish it, then may he help me do so, you know? And it requires a lot of patience as well. So yeah, that is one factor. I just think that right now, naturally speaking, in a certain sense, I can't really dedicate a ton of time to God's Last King when I'm also trying to dedicate a ton of time to like working and saving and stuff like that, you know? So I think if God wills, after I have my own house and land, then potentially I would have much more mental space and time to dedicate to, you know, working on God's Last King. The second factor preventing me from working on it more right now is really the limitations of AI technology. So if I were to continue working on God's Last King, I would actually want to shift the visual direction of the show from, it is currently stop motion. I actually would like to make it an actual, visually speaking, an actual Japanese anime. So basically like a Japanese cartoon as far as the look of it goes, right? And the AI technology that I have tried for that purpose, or at least some of them, the one for the lip syncing, basically for the lip syncing of the characters, for them like actually speaking, the AI technology I've tried for the lip syncing is not very good at lip syncing cartoon characters' mouths. It's much better at lip syncing like real life mouths or photorealistic stuff, like an actual, say like a realistic looking action figure, an image of an action figure, that kind of stuff. It's much better with real life subjects than cartoon subjects. And it's also pretty good with 3D animated subjects, so like Pixar kind of look, that kind of thing. So essentially, currently as the technology stands right now, I would probably have to manually edit the mouths myself for the lip syncing part, which is not a huge deal. Like, it's doable. You know, I definitely could do it. I would just rather if the AI could just do it, you know? But that's another limitation. And I might actually email the AI company that I've been trying primarily and see if they have any solution to that, or if they're maybe, or if they might not be aware of that issue. And if I email them, that might actually inspire them to, like, you know, improve the technology potentially, because I believe they have responded in a similar way to other emails I sent in the past, or at least to one of the emails I sent before. But yeah, so those are the two main factors currently hindering me from working on God's Last King in a much more frequent capacity. And regarding the episodes themselves, I'm contemplating whether I would upload them on that channel or on this channel. I think what I might do is upload them on that channel, but any kind of like behind the scenes analysis and discussions and stuff like that, I would upload those on this channel, because I am aware that recently the channel has grown. As I was saying, I am aware that recently the channel has grown quite a bit. And if that does mean, by God's providence, that many of you, I would pray all of you, but I doubt every single one of you, but basically I pray that means that many of you, and hopefully at least the majority of you who are subscribed to this channel, are actually real Catholics. You actually accept true papacy, which has been hidden from the world, as prophecy foretold, and you profess the church's true teachings in all aspects, you know, at least that you're aware of. Because of course, you know, you don't have to know every single thing the church has taught, but you know what I mean? Basically, you don't profess any heresy, you know, at least knowingly, at least. But yeah, essentially what I'm saying is, I hope that at least most of you are real Catholics. And if that is the case, I just feel personally Like my words and my efforts and my creativity and everything, they're not wasted if I share them with you, you know? Essentially, it's kind of like when the Lord said, like, the seed that lands on good ground, you know, is like you're spreading seeds on good ground that will bring forth fruit. It's not effortless speech. You're not sharing the truth or sharing your views with a bunch of people who just don't care and just completely godless. You know what I mean? It's kind of like feeling as though there's a much stronger chance of your efforts and your words being valued as opposed to just being discarded and bringing forth no fruit or bringing forth very little fruit, you know? So I much prefer to share videos like this or the behind the scenes discussion kind of stuff and all that with fellow real Catholics, as opposed to sharing that with a bunch of infidels who basically would, not put my words to good use, you know? Not saying, of course, that no infidel can. Of course, in my experience, at least personally, when I would evangelize in my neighborhood, there were probably 2 or 3 occasions out of many occasions. I mean, it was basically I considered it to be a rare experience, but there were a few occasions where it seemed that potentially God did actually enlighten the person's soul, you know? So I'm not saying that sharing the truth with infidels is completely pointless. It's definitely not, but it's just that because the times that we live in, people are so hard of heart and people are so blinded by darkness that this is not a time of conversion, We don't live in a time of conversion. We don't live in a time where St. Patrick is converting the whole of Ireland. And, we don't live in a time of great conversion. We live in a time of great darkness and ignorance. So just by the very fact that we live in these times, it means that most people you communicate with very likely will not be converted. They will not receive the truth well. They'll continue obstinately in darkness and so on, So we live in times that are not very receptive to the truth. And so basically today evangelism is not as effective as it would have been in like St. Patrick's time, for example, right? Where God was actually on a mission to convert basically all of Europe and stuff like that, But yeah, so those are my updates regarding that stuff. There are also other videos I would like to make potentially in the future if God wills. And 2 of them that I'm thinking about right now are like basically what jobs are the spiritually safest jobs or most spiritually safe jobs, particularly for men, but it could be applied to, women as well. Because I have, at least in my experience, in my view, I have been fortunate enough to find jobs and stuff and income earning opportunities that are much more spiritually safe than almost everything on earth at this point, And so God willing, at some point in the future, I'm thinking about making a video or videos talking about that subject matter. Right now, I'm currently looking for a different source of income. I left the previous source of income I had for, a religious reason, Basically, I'm not going into detail about it, in a future video, if God wills, but I will just give a brief kind of vague summary right now. Essentially, if a person or persons or a certain environment causes you violent temptations, in this case specifically, like temptations to like bitterness or anger or hatred, anything like that, I think is really best, in my experience, actually, personally, in my experience at least, I would think that the saints would agree. Essentially, what is best is to completely cut that entire thing out of your life, like completely out of sight, out of mind, basically. And for me, I found that if let's say if a person causes me violent, horrible temptations, let's say to hatred or anger and that kind of stuff, if I completely cut them out of my life entirely, and then let's say, years go by and whatever, is like, as you separate yourself from that person, all the temptation really fades away, man. It really, really fades away. Because there's some people who, like, at one point, I had very strong temptations of like hatred towards them and stuff. And I can't speak infallibly, but I do think the hatred was, God willing, rooted in justice. It wasn't like just like some personal grudge. It was like because of their godlessness and stuff. But still, I would rather not be around that person and not have to try to moderate those kinds of thoughts. So basically what I'm saying is, there are persons who at one point, just the thought of them would cause me very, very extreme temptations to hatred. But now that I've completely cut them out of my life and have nothing to do with them at all, as a way to avoid those temptations, when I think about them now, I don't feel anything, I don't feel any bitterness, or I really don't, which is really good. And I'm very grateful for that. So I would advise any of you, if there's anyone in your life who, causes you like temptations to like extreme hatred and stuff like that, it's really best to just completely cut them out of your life and have nothing to do with them. I mean, like nothing, like zero. Don't talk to them, don't talk about them, nothing. And as time goes on, the temptation, in my experience, it kind of like just fades away. And then like in the future, if you think about them again, it just doesn't really have really any effect, actually, for me at least, So I think that's a really good spiritual practice. But I mean, of course, the Lord talks about that. If your right eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out, right? If something causes you temptation, avoid it, run away from it. So I found that to be a very effective thing in that regard. Something else I wanted to say. What else did I want to say? Let me think. Oh yeah, another kind of video I wanted to make. All right, so I basically, I left my previous employment due to the necessity of avoiding that kind of violent temptation to hatred or bitterness and that kind of stuff, right? Like sometimes you have to like avoid things entirely. But so I'm currently now looking for a different income situation. But another kind of video I would like to make is how to have a traditional Catholic family structure in today's world without being rich. Because I do think that, if I'm correct, God willing, I have really, I would say, it's really very interesting to me because it's something that people should be aware of, but I feel as though a lot of people are not aware of it, strangely. But essentially a way that you could actually be able to support a family as a Catholic man, support your family, and your wife not have to work or anything without being like rich. You know what I mean? Like it is, I believe it is possible. It's just that you really need, there's a certain important step you have to take to put yourself in the right situation or position to be able to do that, right? And so God willing, in the future, I'd like to make a video or videos talking about how to do that, how to have an actual traditional Catholic family structure in today's world without being rich, you know, because I do think it is possible. And if God wills, I'd like to share more information about that with you all in the future. Yeah, so I will say too, if any of you, preferably males, because I mean, I would rather not, I guess I would rather not begin, I guess it doesn't really matter that much. If it's just, if all you want to know is the information, then it's fine, I guess. But if there are any of you who are searching for a spiritually safer way to earn a living remotely, right? Remotely online, without having to, like, you know, go out into the streets and see a bunch of prostitutes or work with a bunch of prostitutes in person and all that kind of garbage. If there are any of you who are searching for that, then feel free to email me and mention, like, basically in the subject line, say something like, I'm looking for spiritually safer work or something like that. And if God wills, I will, like, you know, give you more information regarding the income opportunity or situation that I was working in previously. Yeah. So anyways, thank you for watching. If you are a real Catholic, God bless you. If you are not a real Catholic, then I pray that God grants you the grace to be converted and to one day die as a saint. And of course, to the real Catholics as well, I pray that God grants you the grace to die as a saint. Thank you for watching. Take care.